Welcome back to a special bonus episode of season two of Independent Showcase. You would have only seen it. There's only been one episode released so far with Key and Cameron. There is more coming, but we have more pressing matters to discuss. And when I spoke with my guest at this time, we realized that there was shows this coming weekend. So I wanted to make sure that we release this ahead of time so that anyone that has listened to this that wants to buy a ticket for what's going to be a very important weekend in this company's history, very early in his company's history as well. I'm delighted to speak to Lauren from Burning Heart Pro Wrestling, co-owner and COO. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Well, I say I'm good. As we briefly touched upon before we started recording, it's show week.
Uh,
Anybody who's ever had an involvement with show week from any kind of angle will know what that's like. But we carry on, we smile, we get through it, and we are excited for the weekend as well. Once it comes around, it's absolutely amazing. But the week leading up,
oh yeah.
good but stressful.
Yeah, I get that. And we spoke before we went on an air, and I mentioned that we had a championship at Ignite, and we're fortunate to say, look, we come to agreement of who's coming in and whatnot, but we still feel a part of Ignite. And that week, I've had messages from Chris that runs Ignite on the week. Oh my God, this has happened, that's happened, this has happened, and I know, although I don't know, I know if that makes sense, how it
No,
happens.
you know enough to get it. That's all. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. I know enough to get what you guys are going through, but I would say that in a way because you're running two shows this weekend. So is that sort of excitement and stress levels two found?
Yes and no, because it just kind of bundles together. But then obviously because you've got two different methods of marketing, you've got two different sets of matches to look at, different promos to capture, all of that kind of thing. So it just kind of adds another kind of vein of organization, I guess.
Mm,
I suppose it is slightly easier when you're focusing on one show, like with our last show at Wolverhampton,
mm.
but it only ended up being the one show because ultimately we were supposed to debut in Manchester in November the day after, but we realized we had a clash with Progress. So obviously we weren't going to step on toes there. So
Yeah.
we kind of just pushed that to one side until now, and concentrated on the one. So comparing the two, I would say yeah, it makes it a bit more complicated, but ultimately, when they're kind of bundled together like this one, as it's a tournament,
Mm.
it kind of runs alongside anyway. So I'm going to say no, it's not too bad because if I say yes, I'll cry.
I do appreciate the honesty of that, but you did make a good point. It is difficult to kind of we say run a shows alongside. I mean, we done something really stupid. So we've basically co-promoted or co-sponsored two shows of Ignite. The last show we done was the day after North Wrestling, which was absolutely fine. That wasn't the problem. The problem was three guys that love football that totally forgot that the Euro final was on that Sunday. So we,
Happens.
I don't know, but luckily enough, it sold out, and I'm sure your shows will definitely sell out. But yeah, running against not necessarily running against other promotions, but obviously because independent wrestlers are sometimes you've got champions from that promotions I know coming over. It's always a bit of a difficult one, isn't it, to make sure that you kind of get that balance right, so that as you say, you don't step on toes.
Exactly. And it's mutual respect as
Mm,
well. You know, ultimately there are a lot of promotions around and there's a position for everybody in this business. And
yeah,
the more collaboratively people work together, the better it is for everybody. You know, this huge Netflix deal for WWE is
yeah,
brilliant for everybody in wrestling in every country in the whole world. You know, it's putting it in front of a new audience that not isn't necessarily going to kind of venture out there to find it, but it's there right in front of them. So it's going to benefit everybody from the small promotions who are doing it just for the love of it because they just want to run a wrestling show to the ones that are building brands. You know, there's room for everybody and it's just about that mutual respect. Sometimes you can't really avoid it or
mm.
you might miss something. So for example, we didn't know until about a week ago that Mega Slam are running in Liverpool the night before we are.
Huh,
But ultimately it's a completely different audience. They're a
yeah.
touring outfit. You know, they're a family show that targets a casual audience that's looking for something to do on a weekend and charge £5 a ticket. That's not what we are. So ultimately, if a casual fan wants to go and pay £5 a ticket for that show and not isn't interested in really doing it all the time, that's their audience, and that's fine. And I hope that does well because ultimately, everybody who goes to a wrestling show is affected by the marketing of wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
So we're not interested in standing on people's toes. We're very collaborative. We're working alongside a lot of promotions. We're working with Future Shock. We work alongside Atomic as well. We flyer each other's seats at the shows. We want everybody to do well. So yeah, it's just about that mutual respect and doing the best that you can. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but just doing the best that you can.
Exactly that. And speaking of, as you mentioned, Atomic, I can bring up that we're going to be talking to Atomic next week as part of another bonus because they've got a show
Oh,
coming up as well.
yes.
So it's important, as you say, it is very important. But do you think, Lauren, though, just a slight aside, because you did hint at the Netflix deal from the WWE, and we'll talk about your television deal in a minute because it's really exciting for you guys, especially in your infancy, really, really infancy, really, to be able to
Very
boast
much.
that's a really good thing. But do you think that Netflix deal has helped the independent scene in wrestling because more eyes can get on the product in America, which could then say, "Oh, I wonder if there's any wrestling shows near me coming on this weekend."
I think so, yeah, because it's one of those, the amount of people that I've spoken to in my 13 years in this business, when you speak to them and they're not really familiar with it, yes, they've heard of WWE, they might have watched it when they were kids, the older generations might have watched World Sport.
Mm.
They've not necessarily seen or paid that much attention to the posters that might be put up for a local wrestling show or a sponsored ad. They've just not clicked. But then after you've had that conversation, the next conversation you have is, I had no idea these two companies ran in the town that I live in. But now that you've actually had that conversation, you've been woken up to it, they're more aware of it, they're more conscious of it. And I think that is a much smaller kind of scale comparison to what the Netflix deal is doing with WWE. It's putting it in front of that global casual audience that, I mean, God, look at all the platforms that we've got to watch now.
Yeah,
And how many times a week do we say, oh, there's nothing on?
yeah, a lot.
You know what I mean? We all do it. We all do it, which is ridiculous. And I don't think it's a case of nothing being on. It's just what you're in the mood to watch. So the amount of people that will see this week's Raw or Elimination Chamber coming up on the latest scroll on
Yeah,
Netflix that might just put it on as a casual watch. It's that awareness. It's not even necessarily the brand awareness for WWE. It's literally it should. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't benefit everybody or every promotion, every wrestler. The more people, like Joe Hendry, for example, we can
yeah,
use an example here. Good friend of ours, big fan of what he's doing. So happy to see him doing so well. What he managed to do with that, and it was completely by chance, but what he managed to do by his entrance music going viral was he got in front of a casual audience that knew who Joe Hendry was. So the initial question or the initial response wasn't necessarily, oh, that wrestler Joe Hendry. It was like, oh, I know who Joe Hendry is,
mm,
which puts that lead back into wrestling. Whether it's through TNA, whether it's through NXT, whether it's through his own channels, it all comes back to one central space, which is the universal benefit as for wrestling as a whole.
yeah, exactly that. You mentioned collaboration as well there, and I wanted to just ask one last question before we move on to your championship coming up this weekend. You did mention Joe Hendry, and I do wonder, and I've wondered this for a while. The impact of what he done when he obviously put his song out there. And I do wonder, and I've asked this for a couple of promotions and I've had sort of different answers on this. Do you think that had a hand in WWE going, oh, he's doing that and he works for TNA. Why don't we do something that we've never done and sort of collaborate with TNA to, obviously give their wrestlers on NXT an opportunity to face the best in TNA and bring some TNA eyes on the WWE circuit?
That's probably how it will seem on the outside. Obviously, with me working for TNA,
Yeah.
I kind of know how that came
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Without kind of giving too
Yeah.
much away.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's more of a case of when you strip it right back,
Mm.
it's all to do with relationships,
Yeah.
opportunities, all these conversations of collaborations with TNA. I mean, they were happening already.
Yeah.
In the background, when I say we, TNA were already collaborating with AEW.
Yeah.
And they were collaborating with New Japan, and they've
Yeah.
collaborated with several Mexican promotions
Yeah.
over the years. So that collaborative thinking has always been there. I think with WWE, obviously, it's been a lot more difficult. I think that's been a lot to do with leadership,
Yeah.
and those kind of decisions and personal opinions of who's been around. I think now the kind of reins have been very much loosened, and really great people are at the top there making these
Mm.
decisions. I think they've probably been dormant ideas for quite a long time. That's the impression I get anyway.
Yeah.
And like red tape has kind of come down a little bit, and common sense has kind of come into play a little bit more because why not?
Yeah. Exactly that. Why not? And it's working. It's love. I think it's great. I think it's been a big. Obviously, we get the obviously the TNA interviews over here. We're delighted for them, and we've seen we've been following TNA for many years, and I think it's great. But let's switch focus back now because I appreciate this is Burning Heart Pro Wrestling that we're talking about, and this is a huge weekend for Burning Heart Pro Wrestling. And one of the most important things that you're doing this weekend is something that we've done as well before. So we've got, again, I know how important this is for the company. You're basically running a tournament this weekend, and the winner of that tournament becomes the first ever Burning Heart Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion. How exciting is that for Burning Heart Pro Wrestling?
Incredibly exciting. I mean, in the first place, to start off with tag titles
Mm,
initially from
yeah,
the beginning was very exciting. And then we're only 8 months old,
yeah,
really, when you think about it. If you go by when the first show ran,
yeah.
8 months old to have an incredible, I mean, wait till you see it. The World Championship belt is absolutely beautiful. We're going to do a belt reveal this week
Ooh,
as well. Um, to be able to crown a world champion at this point, I think is extremely special.
yeah.
I think that reflects on the ethos of the company and what it is that we're trying to build. Um, it's a difficult one as well because there's so much incredible British talent out there,
Yeah.
especially there's a lot of talent that aren't necessarily used as much as they should be or booked as much as they should be that you don't get to see as often around the country. So to be able to narrow it down to 8 entrants was a difficult task in itself. But to have those 8 entrants at the caliber that they are, competing in the way that they are for this tournament is very exciting.
It
Very,
is.
very exciting for us.
We'll get into those 8 in a minute, and yeah, I'm looking at them on my phone, and it's just like, well, yeah. When we'll get into we're not going to get into the reveal of those 8 because they are already out there for those of you that want to see it. But it's an incredible quarterfinal lineup on Saturday. Obviously, it rolls into Sunday for the semi-finals and final. But you mentioned you're only 8 months old, and whenever I ask this question to promoters, the response I always get is "don't," which is obviously like what made you decide and what advice would you give to people to if they wanted to look at starting a promotion? As I say, the answer that we normally get is don't because it's just so stressful and everything like that. But let's strip that back actually before I ask that question. You're only 8 months old. I'm sure the process took longer than 8 months. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I'm going to run a wrestling promotion." That's just something to do. How did that start? What was the initial engagement and how did it get to where it's got to today?
Oh, so I mean, you say that some people that people don't wake up and go, I'm going to promote a wrestling show." Some people do, and it shows. But but like I say, there's everything from
Mm,
that to above. There's always a place for everything as long as it's done properly.
yeah.
So for this process, I wasn't necessarily involved with the inception of
Mm,
it. This very much came from Zach Gibson and a few other people, at that caliber
yeah.
right up there who were having this discussion that wanted to bring out a product that was, as they've promoted, by wrestlers, for the fans.
Yeah.
That's kind of evolved a little bit since then. So the first conversation that Zach and I had about it was in September 2023, around
Mhm.
that time. And he's like, "Look, this is the idea that we've got. I'd really like to be involved. We've been friends for a long time and we've worked together. I've run a promotion before.
Yeah.
Zach's run a promotion before when he ran an established Infinite in Liverpool. Obviously, I've been with TNA for 12
Yeah.
years in international marketing. So there's lots of things that we can all bring to the table collaboratively. Again, we like to go back to that word.
Yeah.
So that was the first conversation. But wrestlers being wrestlers, every couple of months I was messaging and I was like, "Is this happening? Do you want my help? What's going on?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation." And it literally got to, I think, 10 days, maybe a week to 10 days before the first show. And I was like, "Zach, do you want my help or not?" And he was like, "Oh, it's a bit late now, isn't it?" And I was like, "Hold my beer." I was like, "Give me some talent for some interviews. I'll put a press release out. We'll do some interviews. I'll put some social ads out for you. I'll take over the social media. We'll get it done." And we did. And the guys basically looked at that and what I did. And Zach was like, "Here you go. This is what Lauren's going to bring to the table." And everyone was like, "Yeah, come on, let's do this." So those initial shows were very much testing the water, bringing the ethos of the brand to the industry and being like, right, how is everybody going to react to this? Is
Mm,
this going to resonate with people? And it really did, and it has done ever since. So since that point, I obviously became a co-owner and the COO. The other partners are all based in America, so obviously I'm the only one on the ground here.
Mhm.
So it's fun. So COO is the label that kind of we came up for myself because I'm basically promotion, logistics, talent liaison, venue liaison. It's all kind of coming through me. At the same time, the guys very much head up the creative pathway for everything. So, it's all brains from all angles and all levels of talent and experience that come together to put something really special together. And that's where the original ethos has kind of evolved in the sense of, and it's kind of been changed on our socials. Yes, it was created by wrestlers for wrestlers for the fans, but it's operated by Wrestling Minds. So it's not just wrestlers involved, it's people from different elements of the industry that are able to come together and bring all of that to the table to produce something we think is really special.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, it's still got. I mean, some wrestling companies don't even last 8 months. So the fact that it's lasted 8 months is a big feat. You mentioned there about different, collaborating in different areas of wrestling. And does that actually bring a bit more of I suppose, a varied approach to when you're looking at it? Because obviously, I have a little bit of a hand with my championship and on what we do and who we bring in, and kind of a little bit of a match layer. I mean, the rest of the professionals, I'll let them get on. They can do whatever they kind of want, but we get the end goal. But is that a really interesting? It was a really interesting point that you make, because to have those different areas brings that sort of, I suppose, sometimes a different approach, and sometimes you sit there and think, why didn't I think of that?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a different approach. It's different experience as well. So,
Mm.
I mean, God, in the last 13 years, the amount of things I've experienced or either not made mistakes as such, but
Mm.
learned from in the sense of, oh, well, I'd do that differently that next time. Or I like you say, I wouldn't have thought of doing that. So you take that forward. So my experience, obviously, be top lined with TNA is in international marketing and PR
Yeah.
alongside Simon Rothstein. So from 2012, we've worked together on the TNA UK arena tours for 4 or 5 years. And then on top of that, we've kind of kept the brand alive in the UK with all the social media, press interviews. I mean, you received them, you've done the
Yeah.
interviews
Yeah.
yourself. And from that experience, it just brings a different angle to the table when we're having these discussions. So when I'm talking to the guys about the creative, sometimes I don't necessarily get why a creative decision's been
Yeah.
made, but I ask why. I don't challenge it. I'm not like, I think that's wrong because it's a case of, okay, why? And you learn from each other
Yeah.
all the time. I've been privileged enough when working for TNA. My two mentors in the business were Al Snow and D'Lo Brown, and I would even bring, well, I'd say three. I'd even bring Gail Kim into that because
Yeah.
like I say, I've had the privilege of working with them for so many years, and I've learned so much off them. And Gail, being the way that she is, she's very blunt and she is very to the point, and I resonate with that so well. And she will be like, this is just the way it is, yeah, you have to get on board with this. Or but she's so empathetic at the same time and so creative, and brings everything to observe these people is incredible, and you take that on board. And it's the same for the guys that are involved at senior level in our company that make those creative decisions. They've been through those experiences as well. They might have planned a match in a certain way that an agent has said, actually, if you do this, be a bit different, or that storyline wouldn't work because what about this? And then they bring that to the table, and we all just learn from each other, and it's beautiful, really, because we've got elements of crew. Backstage crew are just as important as everybody on the show because nothing gets pulled together without everybody that comes on board. Our referees are very involved and very passionate about the brand, and they help run the backstage as well when they're doing that. Our ringside crews, our photographers, everybody is part of telling the story. So to be able to bring all those minds in and not be closed in and be like, this is what I want to do, and because I said so, it makes such a huge difference to what the output is.
Yeah, it's really good to have that collaborative effort with everybody, because everyone can bring different ideas to the table. Don't always necessarily use those, but sometimes you just add that little bit here and that little bit there, and it can create something really magical, which is exactly what you guys have done so far. I would have to ask though, and I'm just reading this, so if I'm reading it wrong, please tell me. You you decided to run 3 shows in 3 days in June.
Yes.
I mean, are you insane? Is that...
wasn't me.
No.
So when I was talking about the pathway of
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
conversations and stuff,
yeah,
those three shows had very much been established. The guys had set that up and
yeah.
everything. So I was still kind of knocking on the door and like, do you still need my help? And I was a little concerned because there was three shows.
Yeah.
By that point, because I wasn't really sure what was going on, I couldn't attend Wolverhampton and Swansea because I had a wedding and various other things to go to. But I was very much there in Liverpool. I helped them put some processes in place, some policies, various paperwork and safeguarding for both the wrestlers and the company itself. So we kind of kicked off with all of that. And as I say, they were kind of the establishing shows. So a lot was learned from those shows themselves. The feedback from fans was amazing. So we ran with what that feedback was, what the fans could sort of clung on to, and we knew that the ethos that we were putting out there was resonating with fans and wrestlers as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the most important thing, isn't it? We say the fans, and they really are, because without them, you don't have a Burning Heart Pro Wrestling anyway,
Absolutely.
because you don't, no one attends. And obviously, it's great that you've had a lot of success already early doors. We'll just touch on that TV deal in a second, because that's an amazing thing to be on telly this early as well. You mentioned that you kind of already hit those unique selling points about Burning Heart Pro Wrestling. How important is it that everything that you do revolves around those points?
Very important. I think it always needs to come back to the ethos of it. And that's giving young talent and, well, not even necessarily young, new talent a chance to shine, um, to be backed as well and to give them a platform and that's why we run the seminars as well before
Mm.
every show that we do. We run the seminars. We also have a scramble match on every show, which will involve the top performers of those seminars. So by doing that, we hope that if someone doesn't get that spot, that it doesn't discourage them, but it also gives them something to work towards. So they turn up to that seminar with their gear in their bag, ready to go if they earn that spot. It's an opportunity that wasn't necessarily there before. So it's never a case of, it's not a pick me situation. It's a come and perform, come and be seen by people, get the right advice from people. And the guys that run the seminars, GYV are usually at least
Yeah.
running one of the seminars. They always stand with everybody, give them feedback. If they do like any sequences or matches or anything like that, they will always give them feedback. They're always very approachable. Whoever does the seminars, Dijak is very much the same in his style. Haskins is very much the same in his style. So in Liverpool, we're running a seminar with GYV and Haskins together. All three of them have different styles and different things that resonate with them. So to be able to get that kind of, not only 2 hours of learning from them, but to have that one-to-one conversation with all of them and get all of those different perspectives is invaluable for trainees and wrestlers trying to make it in the business. And then obviously we've got Dijak doing 2 seminars in Manchester. That gives an international perspective. That gives a completely different perspective. Because again, all three of them have had, as much as they might correlate and they might be able to relate to each other, everybody's individual experiences can give you something different.
Yeah, exactly. I
So
mean, oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there,
no, no, go
Lauren.
on. No,
Sorry,
no. I
I
was
didn't mean
babbling.
to.
No, it's fine.
No, when it comes to obviously Dijak gives you that. I know that obviously GYV have been done. They were done a bit with AEW and WWE and stuff in the past, but Dijak has got that kind of WWE in 2024 kind of vibe where he brings in it can just be something like cameras, visuals, face, something as
Yeah.
simple as facial expressions can to sell what you're currently doing in that ring. And Dijak will be able to bring that element to it from a WWE factor that he was there very recently, even. So that brings another added element to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And he actually, I'm sure it's criminology, has a degree in criminology. So it gives a different kind of mental kind of thinking, I suppose. But then he's also doing acting classes on top of everything that he does. So that just shows you the kind of level of commitment that one should have. I mean, obviously, everyone has different capacities. People do this, in an evening when they work full-time jobs. People have kids, so it depends what route you want to take in life. But there are different ways to learn, whether it's reading people's experiences and not just wrestlers either, documentaries on different actors, your favorite actors, different elements that you take from building a character. Because you get a lot of wrestling naysayers that are like, oh, it's fake. Well, what's the film or the soap opera that you've just watched? Is that real? It's yeah, okay, wrestling is weird. It is. It's a soap opera in a ring where people have words and fight it out. When you actually break it down, it's a very odd concept, but it works. And not only does it resonate with fans, it resonates with people on a personal level. So the amount of people that I've seen come through training and aren't necessarily looking to get famous or be famous or be a famous wrestler or get to WWE, they're trying to find a place in life.
Mm.
And I could highlight specific people. I won't, but there's people that come to mind specifically that I first met, and they were extremely shy, reserved people that were dealing with their things from life that have gone through wrestling training and not only built the confidence for their own lives, they've made friends they never thought they would make. They've found a place. And wrestling is very much that, I think, for a lot of people. It's a safe place.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk on Dijak a little bit because obviously, look, when you generally, independent companies have a core roster of talent that they use every show, and then they'll bring in imports from the UK. And generally, those imports are the names that you wouldn't always bring in. But when you're bringing in an international import and as a name such as Dijak, how important is it when you select those particular imports that they fit the company's? You kind of hit it on there. The ethos and the passion that the company has to do well in the industry.
Oh, incredibly important. Just as important as, I mean, you don't even need to split it by UK and international.
Mm.
It's the same for everybody. And obviously, with Dijak, he is very relevant at the moment with his Match of the Year 2024 win for NXT.
Mhm.
Not only that, he's a great character. He's hilarious. He knows exactly what he's doing, not only for the show itself, but for the seminar. We wanted to be able to offer that. And he's just launched his own training school in the US as well. So it's great sort of timing for that. Bringing international imports in isn't necessarily a habit we're going to make. It
Mm.
needs to be right for where we are as a business. It needs to be right for the show that we're putting on, or a competition that is happening, or a bid for a belt or anything like that. It has to be right. And he ticks all the boxes. That he's that great character. He's got the right ethos for the business. He cares about it so much that he does go outside of it and
Mm.
has like an acting coach. All of those kind of things. It's the passion for the business and the running in with the ethos to want to pass that on, not only to the next generation, but for the peers around them. I think there were generations in wrestling that were very closed off,
Yeah.
unapproachable. I would say probably the generation before the generation that's my age was like that. There was almost a gap because most generations would pass on to the next, but then it stopped, certainly in the UK. And then a generation that's our age is now passing that on again, and that very much fits in with what we're doing. And I don't even think we'd approach someone that we didn't come off as the right ethos, because they'd have to be out there already in the business projecting that ethos for us even to want to be interested.
Yeah, absolutely, and he does tick those boxes. I've met, I think, yeah, I did meet him, sorry, once, and he was a great guy to me, and I'm sure the seminars and what he's going to be doing at the weekend is going to be really good for Burning Heart. We'll get into his match shortly, but I want to take a break from Burning Heart Pro Wrestling for just a few short minutes. And now, full disclosure to everybody, I do ask some random questions to promotions. I have given you two of those questions already. I'm going to give you one I didn't hit you with, and it's also one that stumps a lot of people when I ask the question. So I would say I apologize, but I gave you two. I can't give you every single one of them. The first question would be if you had to name a top three of your favorite wrestling theme songs, who would be the top three?
Oh my God, well, it's got to be Edge
Oh
straight
yes,
away
yeah,
because I'm a big rocker. So you stick Alter Bridge,
yeah.
then that's going to win. I would say The Undertaker as his American Badass thing, but I thought that was crap. So that I wasn't a fan of that at all. For me, Undertaker was Undertaker. It
Yeah.
should never have been anything else. But obviously, it was Limp Bizkit, so that would be. But I'm not going to include that.
Yeah.
Um, CM Punk.
What one?
And it'd have to be The Undertaker because it's not even so much about the entrance music, it's about the atmosphere
Yeah.
of that entrance. And I think anyone who's tried to mimic that light shutdown, I think it works for anybody who does it because it gives that immediate oh moment. No one will ever do it like Undertaker did. No one will ever be able to replicate that. But I think those would be my top three. I think it has to get me going in some sort of way, and that's the whole ethos of wrestling. It's to make you feel. No matter what you do, it's to make you feel. And you've got two great rock songs there in Edge and CM Punk, and then with Undertaker, the music itself isn't necessarily particularly groundbreaking, but you
No.
put the music with the atmosphere and everything that's created with it, it's goosebump inducing. So yeah, that would be my top line.
And I'm guessing you mean cult of personality for CM Punk. Or
Yes, sorry, yes, obviously.
yeah,
I mean, there could be special mentions. Like I used to really enjoy Velvet Sky, or the Beautiful People,
yeah,
their entrance music. I'm trying to think. There's a few that I could give as bonuses, but we'd be here forever, I guess.
yeah. I think sometimes it depends on my mood. Edge is one. It's always. I mean, I've got Edge tattoos. The rated. I've not got the rated R, but I've got the star with the women over the back on my back. I've got a Brood tattoo on my arm, and bits and pieces. I've got Stone Cold's skull with some dice that say 316.
Hell, that's commitment.
Yeah, it's probably sad more than anything else, but
Oh,
no, you like that. Okay, and then
no,
I've
it's
got
what you're passionate about.
yeah,
Tattoos are very subjective. I have my own. Yeah, as
yep,
long as you love them,
yep.
who cares?
Oh, I don't care what anyone thinks. Yeah, the only time I do care is when I get the funny looks at the airport because I've got the Latin Tottenham thing across my body, Audio Esposito, and it's always like when they look at it. But yeah, that's the only time. I don't really care really. You're right. It's for
You
what I
shouldn't.
want and whatever yeah, what I want is what
Exactly.
matters.
I will have to give one special mention to an entrance music as
Yes.
well because Danny Hope from the Models is my husband, for those who
Uh,
don't know. But have you heard the Models theme music?
no.
Which is it's Rockstar from the Bratz movie, which pops me every single time and is so popular with the fans.
Yeah.
So when you hear the fans pop for it, it's like obviously, you compare that to Undertaker. It's not quite the same, but for me, it's got a little special place in my heart.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. No, that is really, really good. The next question is one I did ask you, one of the ones I did say, and that is, what is the dream match that you would love to see that either you have seen or hasn't happened, but you'd love to see happen?
So that leads actually quite nicely from that mention of Danny then. As someone who didn't come from a wrestling
Mhm.
fandom who kind of fell into the industry, yes, I watched it as a kid.
Yeah.
Bret Hart, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, all my favorites as a child. But I fell into the business as a professional. It would be Danny and Shawn Michaels
Oh,
because he's one of well, Danny and Shawn Michaels or Danny and Randy Savage. I would love to see him have his dream match against his dream opponent.
mm.
That's what would make me happy, really, personally. And they're his two real biggest influences. So yeah, that would do it for me.
Well, Shawn Michaels has said he's got maybe a couple left in him. So
Well, you never know.
you
You
never
never
know,
know.
right? Use that partnership going with TNA, make it happen.
I
Yeah.
can try.
Make it happen. Another one that wasn't on the list that I give you is and I don't specify a year when I say this. I just when I say the word, what is your favorite wrestling pay-per-view? It's not a particular one, it's a pay-per-view, full stop.
Oh, so like the style of.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, oh, it's interesting. See, I know what you mean with not saying particulars because I think
yeah.
I used to love oh God, what was it called now? It was one of the TNA, the old TNA ones. Well, the Ultimate X,
Oh, X. Yeah,
that kind of thing. But they only did a few PPVs that were like Ultimate X. It was usually a match on the PPV.
yeah.
Um,
King of the
I think if we were
Mountain.
going to go big, yeah, it'd be between WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble, but it depends how they book it.
Yeah.
It always depends how they book it because there's been some incredible manias. There's been some really crap ones as well,
Yeah.
but then there's been some amazing Royal Rumbles and some really crap ones as well. So it's almost like a when they're good,
Mm, yeah.
they're amazing, but when they're not, they're really not.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. And my one's always the Royal Rumble, and I do agree there is some crap
Think
ones.
if I had to pick one, it would be the Rumble for the nature of not knowing who's coming out and stuff. I like the vibe of that.
Yeah, I have to go one year. Heart failure stopped me from my 40th from going out there a couple
Oh
of years ago.
God,
Uh,
really?
I won't. I will bore. No, won't bore you on here because I've bored so many people about it on here before. I'll talk
You have to
about
fill
that.
me in on that one.
I will
Christ
talk about
alive,
it
lad.
afterward. Yeah, yeah. So it ruined me going out for like my birthday's in June, so I was going to go the following January, but we'll get onto that afterwards. But yeah, I can't go. I mean, it's in Saudi Arabia next year, so that's a write off. So it'd be the one
Yeah, I
after
wouldn't
that.
do that either.
Yeah, we'd be the
Yeah.
one after that. Another question that has just come to me, and I've now just left my system at the same time. I was going to ask you. Oh, yeah, that was it. This really wasn't necessarily a question, but your instant reaction to a certain John Cena's heel turn at the weekend, just gone.
Brilliant. Absolute genius.
Yeah.
Absolute genius. I think it's amazing. I think what he's going to do and how it's going to happen is quite predictable,
Mm.
but I don't think that matters. Like, I'm like that with movies as well. I'm also about to graduate as a film student, so I've
Yes.
been very analytical about this now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think you don't always need to guess or
Mm.
find out later what's going to happen. Sometimes it's so satisfying to know what's coming.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't know if that was going to happen. I was hoping they were going to do
Mm.
it with it being his last run. But I think the way it was done and the way that it ties into the way he is as an actor and stuff, just seeing his face change and
Yeah.
it was wrestling gold. It was wrestling gold, and you don't get it very often anymore.
You don't. But do you think it was did you think they kind of had to have somebody like a Cody Rhodes to be able to feel those sort of commitments outside, like Make a Wish and things like that? Because obviously we know Cena's a big, the reason why he didn't do it years and years with The Rock the first time. Because if you listen to an interview with John, he was saying that before Cena Rock One, they were going to do it. He had new entrance music, he had a new robe, but it never happened. And do you think it was because they didn't have anyone ready to fill that gap, so to speak, like they do with Cody now?
It's a good question that because I don't think they've necessarily engineered it that way
Mm.
intentionally because they couldn't have predicted how Cody was going to take off again when he came back from
Yeah.
AEW. I think that's probably been, if you're thinking about it from a back office perspective, that's probably been in mind for a while.
Mhm.
And they've obviously watched what's happening and stuff. So it will be a factor in that decision making, I think, absolutely, because it's such a big commitment. It's such a wonderful thing that they do. So to be able, I mean, obviously, John Cena would be removed from that situation when
Yeah.
he leaves anyway.
Yeah.
And he's done so much wonderful work with them so far as it is. So yeah, I think to be able to have someone like Cody, who will definitely take over John Cena's mantle when he's gone, to be able to do that, yeah, will have been a factor in that decision making for sure. I think they've probably been able from a certain point to engineer it that way. But yeah, I think that's a good question.
The last random question was the other one that I did tell you before we come on air, and I asked this to all promoters. So, Atomic, if you're watching, this is coming your way next week when I interview you guys.
Oh, they got a warning.
Well, they would have got a warning anyway. You got a warning about half an hour, 40 minutes ago, but yeah, they'll have about 7 days, so it's a bit of a difference. But as if every wrestler was independent, so anyone could go in, anyone could come into Burning Heart Pro Wrestling. I appreciate there is a way and an ethos that you guys would choose these. So these names may be totally different to names that other people have brought in. Who would be the top five? I'll narrow it down a bit more for you. Three guys, two women that you would bring in to Burning Heart Pro Wrestling.
Oh, see, I might go completely sideways on that and just make it all women.
Okay, go for it.
But
If you,
mine might be a little different
yeah,
because, again, because I didn't come into this
yeah,
from a wrestling fandom. A
mm,
lot of promoters do, and there's
mm,
nothing wrong with that because
mm,
that's where the passion and the love for it comes from.
yeah,
My passion and love was built over the years from the experience that I've had
mm,
with wrestlers, with the fans, being able to be a part of and witness what this industry does for
mm,
people. That's where my love has come from. So it will come from my personal experience of people, really. So probably mainly from TNA. Well,
yeah,
well, people I've worked with at TNA, for example. So Naomi, so
yeah,
Trinity, Naomi, she's
yeah,
amazing. Deonna Purrazzo,
yeah,
Jordan Grace,
yeah,
um, just some amazing women that I've worked with in this business and seeing not only how passionate they are for the business itself, but to be able to do what they do for the fans and for the fans to get what they get out of it. Like when you see that drive and passion from people, not even that, the way that they consider and respect their peers. Like so there was an incident on the last Impact tour before they rebranded to TNA, that Jordan just completely got hold of and was like, this is not going to happen. And that wasn't against TNA, that Impact or anything
mm,
like that. It was something that happened, that was it was just one of those things. We're not going to tolerate that sort of behavior towards the wrestlers, and she really honed in on that and took ownership of that, and it was something I massively respected. But again, just being around these women and seeing what they do and how they project themselves is amazing. So I'm going to take three women just
yes,
because I'm the type of person, I have an ADHD wired brain, so I will literally think about this for hours and hours. So I'm going with the first things that come into my
yeah,
head.
perfect.
I've got two guys left. So to bring into Burning Heart. I'm going to say Dana Brooke as well, also known as Ash by Elegance now, because
Oh yeah.
she's awesome.
I tell you what,
Um,
just quickly on that, what TNA has done, giving her the platform weekly, and I said this on so many review shows, people didn't or haven't really appreciated how good she is until she's gone to TNA, and having that platform weekly to evolve a character that suits her to get on the shows. They've done a great job of that. Sorry, I had to say
yeah.
it.
No, no, no. I'm glad you have because she deserves that, and
Mm.
the fact that she's been and again that comes back down to Gail, who
Yeah.
oversees the knockout. She's amazing. And when you get those people together, like people have said for years now, so a bit slightly off topic, but people have
Mm.
said for years now when they go to TNA just how outstanding that locker room is.
Yeah.
And it's true. They've managed to maintain that outstanding level, not only of wrestling talent, but of caliber of people, of human beings. And I hope they are still preserving that. Um, Sorry, I'll go
No, it's all
back
right.
to
It
what we were
was my
talking.
fault. I had to say
No,
it.
no, it's fine. I've worked with so many. This is really, really difficult. Um, I think Zach Wentz is a great example
Yeah.
who is already part of our roster. Um, God, for some reason my mind's gone really, really blank.
I'll give you one.
I would bring. Hey,
Can I say one to see
yeah,
if you
go.
Ace Austin?
Yeah,
Yep. I'd like.
okay.
Yeah, he owes me a donut anyway. So, but no, I think Ace Austin. I think obviously, look, everything that happened with Chris Bay is an absolute travesty. But and obviously we hope he's better soon. And everyone that wants to go, the GoFundMe stuff is still there. Go and buy some TNA merch at the same time. But we've seen him now kind of evolve as a single a little bit more in TNA. He's done a lot of multi-person matches, but I think he would be something that Burning Heart would be an exciting addition anyway to your roster.
Okay, that's one. That's one for me to look at.
Oh,
I've not worked with Ace
yeah,
other than running interviews with him.
yeah.
When he tapped in from the gym, so I was furious with him. That is my only experience with him. So that doesn't reflect on. I wouldn't have him at Burning Heart
No,
because of
yeah,
that. I just find it really funny. That was a good few years ago though. Um, oh, it just popped into my head who to say. Oh well, initially I'm going to say D'Lo Brown
yeah,
as well
brilliant.
because I adore him. He's one of my very best friends in the
Yeah,
world, and as I say, he was one of my initial mentors in the business. I would say Gail as well, just
yeah.
on the back of that,
Mhm.
because I've developed my ethos from what I have learned from the people around me as well. But I'm still going back to these two guys. Sammy Callahan.
Oh, he's brilliant. He is brilliant.
Um,
Yeah,
I love Sammy. We've
great
worked together
seminar as
for
well. You
years
could
and
do.
years. He would do an amazing seminar because again, completely different things he can bring to the table.
Mhm.
He does so much on it. Like he obviously, works with bigger
Yeah,
promotions, but has his own promotion on
yeah.
Pro Wrestling Revolver. He does all his own editing. He does all his own, promos and stuff like that. He can bring so much to people. I would love to have Sammy on the show. If we didn't already have him, I would say RSP, Ricky Shane Page.
Yeah.
I adore him. He is amazing to have backstage at a show, not only in the ring but behind as well. Um, it's so hard to narrow this down. I feel like I have to say this. I have to say this person because I could say many, many more, but this person is someone that I've been friends with since I first started in the business, and we've worked together a lot since. Is Eddie Edwards.
Oh, he's brilliant. He was. I love Eddie Edwards. I think he's great.
He's a great human and a really great example of what this business is supposed to be about. He had a match with Danny and Joey, the models, for Future Shock before the Future Shock tag titles,
Yeah.
a TLC match back in 2015. So to see, someone who's taught me a lot in this business, who I've got to do a lot of work for from that perspective, have that match with my partner and see them both shine in their own ways was very, very special. But I'll have to say it because we've worked together so much, it would just wouldn't be right if I didn't. But I could go on and on and on for the amount of people that I've worked with that I would happily bring into this business because I know their ethos is right. But I'm babbling again now because I just can't stop thinking of people.
Don't worry. Eddie Edwards and Alicia Edwards both just signed new contracts with TNA today as well. So
Yes, they did, and Alicia as well is
yes,
awesome.
she
I
is.
love working with
Yes,
Alicia.
yes, she is.
She's so funny.
Had the privilege of TNA. We've had the privilege of Eddie Edwards twice on the show, once with Brian Myers and once on his own. I'll get into that at the end. But let's get back to Burning Heart now. Those random questions have now finished. You'll be pleased to know I've got no more that I've written down. Well, I probably could, but I'm not going to. I'll leave it now because I
You're
want
the
to.
first person who hasn't just got off me on those kind of questions. So I think I did all right there, even though
I
I
think you
babbled
did
a bit.
perfectly. Listen, we stump wrestlers on favorite themes and stuff like that a lot. So you've done. I think you've done great, and totally different names have come up, which is great because obviously you've had that experience working with them as well, which kind of helps. But more importantly, they fit the ethos of the brand of what you're trying to do at Burning Heart, which is the main thing. Look, let's quickly TV deal. You've been going 8 months, and you're on Extreme TV over here on Sky. Some promotions would die for that, and you've got it so early on, which is fantastic. But how great is it to have that TV deal at such a young sort of start of the career of Burning Heart Pro Wrestling?
Fantastic. It's a great accolade to have. But I will give you a little bit of an insider scoop here. It's not a secret, but we're on Extreme because I work with Extreme already.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I do the marketing for Extreme in the
yeah.
UK. Peter Einstein, who is one of the senior chairman with the brand, we met when we started. He came in as a like an exec with Anthem years ago. I
Yeah.
think it was like 2017, 2018. So we were working on Fight Network in the UK before that unfortunately folded because of
Mm.
COVID. So the budget went away for that. So we've kind of already done that. So he reapproached me with Extreme when it came back to the UK. So for anybody who used to watch Extreme, it used to be a much bigger, much bigger offering, shall we say. It used to show a lot of big brands, fresh content, all of that. It's actually available all over the world. So it's really big in Poland, it's big in Russia, it's about to launch in America, and it's literally available all over the world. It's got an app and everything. So Peter approached me and said, "Look, we want to rebuild this in the UK. It's at very grassroots level at the moment.
Mm.
So it's basically a get on board now. Let's see how we can help each other." And that also builds into the ethos of Burning Heart and how I feel personally as well as how everyone should help each other out. So Burning Heart is one of the brands. So I'm sort of
Yeah.
managing that just because of where I am, but then my contacts in the business and things. I'm working with other promotions like North,
Yeah.
Attack, Hustle. We're having conversations with BWR at the moment, PCW, who we used to run on Fight Network,
Yes.
and just bringing Fight Nation as well. So we're like having conversations all over the place to bring the content to the channel. It doesn't sit for everybody. You've got other promotions that kind of sit in their own bubble and they're quite happy where they are, and that's absolutely fine. But this ties into our kind of collaborative ethos, collaborative working. So the brands that do come in with us, they get shown all over the world if they so want to, and it doesn't interfere with any other deals that they have. They also get free marketing from us. We run sponsored ads to advertise not only everybody's shows that are showing on the channel, but the shows that they're selling tickets for. They can also run ongoing adverts on the TV channel as well for their upcoming shows to sell tickets. So there's lots of collaborative working going on with it. So that is now my role with them has kind of developed from kind of just marketing to working with brands and bringing them on board and seeing where we can go with it. Hoping to not only grow the channel, but grow with those brands, help them grow and all work together. And it all comes back to this collaboration.
Exactly that. And the more we get on there, and look, the more that we build Extreme up as well, we'll get Extreme get back up there and get some more promotion going. We're happy to throw out anything on our network for what it's worth, or anything that you want to send our way, or anything that you want us to share or put out there. We're happy to do it. Look, we're only a small thing as well, but we're happy to help where we can. We're
That's what this is. It's not everybody starts somewhere at some point.
yeah,
It's like you work with who you are on the way up, you remember who they are on the way down.
yeah.
But just as a little side note there, for anybody looking for Extreme Channel, it's currently available via Channel Box on Freeview Channel 271. Channel Box is an aggregate for a number of channels, but it's a really great place. It's also available on a free app, and Channel Box also have a free app as well, so that's where everyone can watch it in the UK.
Yep, like me, for example. Because
Thank you.
unfortunately, I don't have Sky. I have the competitor to Sky, which doesn't have that. Hence why I had to get the app to get it. A bit like the
Yes.
TNA Plus app that I get, by the way. Download that as well and subscribe. Cheap plug for that. I always do. Look,
But
let's get.
anybody can pretty much get Freeview as well.
Yes,
So in some
exactly
way,
that.
so as long as you can get Freeview.
Yeah, as long as you've got Freeview, you've got access to it and get some more weekly fixes from the British promotions as well, which is massively important for British wrestling in general. And make sure you don't only attend Burning Heart, you attend as many, well, I'd say look, we appreciate that there's there's things going on in the world, financial stuff like that. If you have to be picky, be picky, but attend as many as you can because every promotion, needs the assistance and the help, and also it helps
Yeah.
develop the stars that you may see on the WWE and TNA and AEW in the future. So make sure.
Definitely. And if you can't attend, watch it online, watch it on TV,
Yep.
click like, click share, support however you can.
Exactly that. Right. Let's get to the final part of the show, which is at least the matches for Saturday. Anyway, boy, oh boy, do we have some talent on hand here. Tag team title match. You've already mentioned FSU GYV. That is Eddie Dennis. I'm just going to say Eddie Edwards then. Eddie Dennis and
Happens.
Mark Andrews. Eddie Dennis and Mark Andrews versus Grizzled Young Veterans, which will be a really, really great match. Eddie Dennis come to Ignite and wrestled for our championship once, and the then champion said that he never learned as much as he did up until Eddie come along. So it was a really big thing to have Eddie there. The 6-person scramble, which we've already covered off. The Wild Boar, I love him. Jekyll and Hyde, though, his character,
Such a character.
yeah, when he has the mask on, everything like that, scares you. One of the nicest people outside of that.
Yeah,
He
very
certainly
nice
is.
guy.
And Scott Oman's in there as well, plus the scramble match, plus the winners from the seminars, sorry, that you've got
Top
coming up.
performers rather than
Performance.
winners.
Performance. Yeah, let's say performance. My bad on that.
No, it's all right.
Mark,
It took me a while to come up with the right phrase for it because I didn't like winners. So top performers, I'm going with.
fine. Top performers. That's brilliant. This women, I can't, I mean, I'm going to have to watch this when it comes out. Danny Luna, Harley Hudson. Harley Hudson, TNA gut check winner. Danny Luna killing it over in TNA, one half knockout. Do they still knock it? Yes, they are. They did beat the Elegances last week on Impact. That's going to be a brilliant match there. I'm really looking forward to
I'm a big
seeing.
fan of both of them.
Yeah.
And it's a first time matchup as well. Both of Danny's matches over the week. I like to find first time matchups if I can.
Yeah.
And to the fact that we've got Danny across both days,
Yep.
first time matchups on both days with two exceptional women. I'm incredibly excited about that.
That's going to be sensational. Anything with Danny Luna in is always great as well. But plus with the two first time
Absolutely.
matches, Harley Hudson as well. Brilliant stuff. Right. Let's get down to this championship, shall we? Quarter-final matches and a who's who of wrestling. Trent Seven, Kenny Williams up as well. That's going to be an interest. Do you have brackets for this yet? Or is that not
Do you have brackets? The brackets went out. Yeah.
okay?
I actually don't have it in front
No,
of
nor do
me.
I. That's why I asked. I should have had. Anyway, Kenny. So Trent Seven, Kenny Williams is one,
I'll get
which
it
is
up.
going to be great. Now you've got a real interesting one: the Battle of the Young Guns. Ethan
Yes.
Allen, Luke Jacobs, one on one. Now, those of you that know Ethan Allen, Luke Jacobs are a team everywhere, as we've already mentioned. Ethan Allen back from serious injury that he had as well. He come back last year. He's been on a wrecking crew really since then. I mean, that if there was anything that was worth, I mean, all these matches are worth admission money alone. But you got those two. Luke Jacobs probably the best wrestler in the UK at the minute, arguably right now. He's collecting all the big belts everywhere he goes. So that's going to be
One of, I would say. I wouldn't want to dismiss quite a lot of very
yes,
good talent out there. He's definitely got the most eyes on him at the moment,
certainly.
as one of the top talents in the country for sure. And to have him in the tournament and Ethan in the tournament, and the fact that they were drawn against each other is just epic, and it's a match I can't wait to see.
I can't wait for that as well. I think that's gonna be, I would say match of the night, but you look at this card and it's like ridiculous in terms of match of the night or match of the year contenders. None more so than Haskins and Kid Lycos. Obviously, Vicky Haskins as well at ringside for that. The referee's gonna have eyes in the back of their head for that one. But
Absolutely. Yeah, she's dangerous.
she is. But in terms of talent wise, Haskins, I mean, Kid Lycos had an amazing year last year as well. Haskins, obviously, I think I did see him last year. It was against Lycos, actually, I think, funnily enough, at the show that I went to. But two unbelievably great talents, two great styles in the ring there together as well. That, again, when you look at matches and match quality on that, you it's just going to be incredible on that one, isn't it? That one's going to be.
Yeah, it is. And like you say, they have met several occasions before.
Mm.
Haskins has never managed to get a win over
Nope.
Lycos so far.
Nope.
So that'll be really interesting. But I rate both of them massively. Obviously Skins comes with a hell of a lot of background and experience all over the world, but then especially for, Lycos has been in the business for a long time as well, and he also comes with those credentials. So to put them against each other in our ring, I'm really excited to see how that plays out.
Me too. And then a good friend of mine, actually, Robbie X. I'll talk more about him when I discuss illness and stuff because he'd done something for me at the time. So talk about him later. But he's a great, great guy, and he's going. He's got the may have picked the unlucky straw on this one because he's going. Robbie X of obviously Bullet Club now as well. We must remember that he's part of the Bullet Club. Is going against Dijak or Donovan Dijak in this. So Robbie X has got a very tough quarter final matchup. Then the semi-finals and final are on the Sunday, obviously, going into that as we crown, or you crown, not we, you crown the first
We
ever.
all crown.
We all
We
crown.
collectively crown.
Yes, we do. We collectively crown the first ever Burning Heart World Heavyweight Champion, which will be an incredible 2-day show. Listen, Lauren, tickets are still on sale. Where can they get them from? And just run us through the weekend.
Sure. So obviously, night one is at the incredible Liverpool Olympia that has long-running connotations with a classic wrestling and iconic wrestling shows. So it's a pleasure to be working with them. That's on night one. That's this coming Saturday, the 8th of March.
Mhm.
And that's where we've got all our quarterfinals for the tournament. We've also got Danny Luna against Harley Hudson, just wrapping up, obviously, just rounding up what we've already discussed, as well as the six-man scramble. I'm missing one, the one like FSU versus UIB for the tag belts. So that's, all none of them are to be missed. When I actually look at these all in a list together, I did it yesterday because obviously I'm all over the place promoting everything. When I actually looked at it, I was like, Christ alive. Like, how do we put this into a running order? So it's super, super exciting. And then obviously we're debuting in Manchester at another iconic venue, the Manchester Academy 2, with the semi-finals and finals. Just to talk about the bracket, so the semi-finals will either be Dijak or Robbie X versus Ethan or Luke, and the other semi-final will be either Haskins or Lycos versus Trent Seven or Kenny Williams. So those two semi-final matches will be taking place there as well as the final.
Yeah.
And then you've got Danny Luna in another first time matchup with the lovely Holly Barlow. I've been looking forward to booking Holly for a long time. I've got a lot of time for her. She's very, very passionate, very, very empowered in the business, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does with Danny. We also have Wild Boar versus Mark Andrews, which will earn if Boar manages to beat Mark, that will earn him a shot at the tag team titles with a partner of his choice. And then we also have a six-man scramble at the moment. We have no entrance for that. It's
Oh,
completely open because we don't know how these quarterfinals are going to play out. So we will have some of the I don't want to say losers or dropouts, but some of the those um in that scramble. We may announce a name or two for it as well. So we will see. We'll see how that one plays out.
brilliant. And where can tickets be on? Where's tickets on sale, Lauren?
The reminder, so you can buy tickets at ticketline.co.uk for both nights. There's also weekend combo packages available. We've got VIP upgrades available. You can also buy tickets for the Liverpool Olympia directly on the Liverpool Olympia's website as well.
Perfect. So make sure you guys get over there. Get up there. If you're living down my way in Essex, get up there. If you're up there or close to there, go left, go right, go down. Just make sure you get there because it's going to be a hell of a weekend. Lauren, just before I wrap up, I'll have to do my big thanks to RVD for coming on this past weekend. That was a it was a fantastic interview. Big thanks, obviously, to TNA for Moose recently as well. It was a. I said he got the turnbuckle rub. He has interviewed us on a Monday and he debuted on NXT on a Tuesday. What more can I say? Has to be said. Our championship, the Ignite, the Turnbuckle Championship, is going up for grabs at Ignite May 18th. The last stand at Shenley Road. Mark True finally returns from Japan and has finally agreed to put his title on the line, or my title on the line, should I say, against the lovely Aluna, who won the number one contendership match in February. So go and check out that 96 Eventbrite. And Lauren, actually got to say now, and to you and Simon, who work for everyone over here at Does the TNA UK Media, just thank you for everything that you do for us, for giving us the opportunity to interview some of the best talent in TNA have got. It's been a fantastic year for us to be able to interview some of the biggest names in TNA. So a big thank you on a personal level from me and the team here, and to Simon for everything
Are
you do.
very welcome. Like I said before, everybody starts somewhere, and and we've all got to work together on everything. And I've just realised the one match that I forgot to give a little
Oh,
plug there was the one featuring my own husband. So Danny Hope has returned from injury. He's been out for 14 months with a broken shoulder. He is, and obviously it sounds like I'm biased, but I'm just being factual here. He's a Northwest favourite. He's come back, and he was only going to come back against the best. So he put a promo out and called out GYV last week, and they have accepted. So there will also be another match on that card, which will be GYV versus the Models.
there you go. Make sure you get it. Lauren, I wish you all the success this weekend. I wish Burning Heart Pro Wrestling all the success as well. Guys, check that out. Check us out as well. HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media outlets. We will be looking forward to seeing the results and who is crowned that first ever Burning Heart Pro Wrestling champion. And until then, everybody, this has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with Lauren from Burning Heart Pro Wrestling and me, Adam Cousins. Until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.